I wish to disabuse you of a notion that's going around out there. Obama, his administration, that is his Justice Department, do not want to lose the Obamacare lawsuit under any circumstances. Let's not think this so far through where we trick ourselves. They have their best lawyers in court, soon to be at the Supreme Court, facing some of our best lawyers, including me and my group, Landmark Legal Foundation, who are fighting them. And they are fighting hard on the issue of the individual mandate, on the issue of whether a penalty is a tax, on the issue of one of these things fail, whether the whole law falls or not. They want to desperately win it. And as a matter of fact, to prove the point, not only by their own filings, as I speak, the Department of HHS, or the Department of HELL, whatever you want to call it, is issuing regulations on Obamacare and digging in and expanding its bureaucracy. That's not to say if they lose, they won't use it as a political issue to try and upset people and rile people up, because this is what they do no matter what the issue is. Elect us so we can reinstitute this or that, or the Republicans want to take this or that from you. I get that. But this is the crown jewel of Obama's Marxist regime. This is the crown jewel. And if they can get it instituted with support from the Supreme Court, they're doing more than instituting government-run health care. I've explained this before. This is why I'm a little troubled by some of the imaginative thinking that's going on out there. This issue, the individual mandate, is bigger than health care. It destroys the Constitution, fundamentally, because it empowers the federal government to dictate your daily lives' activities. Any government that has the power to tell you must purchase something, what you must purchase, and from whom you must purchase it, and claims that it is a constitutional power that government has, well, that's the definition of tyranny. The statists haven't been fighting for this for 80 years, only to turn it into a campaign issue and hope that they lose in the Supreme Court. If they wanted to lose in the Supreme Court, they could have given up in the district courts. They could have given up in the circuit courts. But they didn't. They're in the Supreme Court, fighting like hell to try and ram this damn thing down our throats. That's what they're doing. Because it will fundamentally alter the relationship of the citizen to the government. And if they can get that from the court, they'll take it every day. And as I've said, if they lose, they will turn it into a political issue. Of course, they turn everything into a political issue. But they don't want to lose. They want the Supreme Court to rewrite the Constitution. They don't care if it's a 5-4 vote or not. When I wrote Men in Black, I said, in many ways, the court looks at itself, not all the justices, obviously, as an open-ended constitutional convention. Do you know why the left never anymore even talks about amending the Constitution? Because they don't have to. They go to the courts. And too often the courts do it for them. We conservatives have to talk about the amendment process, which is an onerous process, because the courts don't do it for us. Nor do we ask them to do it for us. But I want you to stay focused on this Obamacare, the individual mandate, the Commerce Clause in the Constitution, and what's going on with the Supreme Court. It's not a joke. And let us not let our imaginations run wild here. They do not want to lose Obamacare. They want to win it. And let me even be more blunt, because if they win it, they don't even have to win the next election. Because they will have gotten what they've been wanting to get for 8 decades. And it will be upheld by the highest court in the land, meaning it's almost impossible to change course. You think they'd give that up? Never. Yes, they'll make it political if they lose. Yes, they'll use class warfare and other propaganda if they lose. That's what they do. But by God, they want to win. And they're throwing every argument they can think of and every high-powered lawyer they can think of into the mix. If they wanted to lose, they have a funny way of showing it. I just wanted to make it clear because this is near and dear to my heart. Landmark Legal Foundation has been involved in this every step of the way. I've been a student of the Supreme Court for decades. I've written about it. So with all humility, I feel like I know something about this. Now, as if to prove the point, the Secretary of HHS, Kathleen Supercilious, she announces Friday in a blog post her department cannot comply with the law, which requires that the Community Living Assistance Services and Supports Act, or CLAS, be self-sufficient financially. And they can't even certify that if they were to take in 5 years' worth of policy payments before they pay out one nickel in benefits. Because people aren't signing up. It's the one part of Obamacare that's required to actually be financially sound. But because she can't certify to that fact, she has said that they're going to drop it. But there's breaking news today. Now they're not going to drop it, they're going to suspend it. Because Obama apparently wasn't consulted before Secretary Supercilious spoke. And Obama has said now, no, we're not going to drop it. We're never going to drop it. You see, folks, all this talk about balancing budgets and fiscal restraint and that Obamacare is fiscally responsible, that we actually make money on it and don't lose money, was always nuts. It was always nuts. You're not allowed to call these people Ponzi's or their schemes Ponzi schemes. No, that would be inappropriate and rude. Ponzi was a piker compared to Obama. Ponzi was a piker compared to Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and all the other crackpots. These people want to compel us through our own income to destroy our own financial futures with these government Ponzi schemes. So they're suspending the Class Act, which has nothing to do with class, by the way. They're suspending it because Obama hopes to win re-election and then to impose something else on us. I just thought you'd want to know. But it is interesting that the HHS Secretary, Supercilious, in an honest moment, before Obama put the shoulder to her, that we can't do this, it's impossible, so we're going to drop it. Then she gets the call. No, you're not. You're going to suspend it. By the way, as a footnote, I worked, as you know, for Ronald Reagan. I've watched other presidents and how their administrations work. I don't think I've ever seen an administration where a president can personally have such enormous influence on the outcome of administrative decisions. The Secretary of HHS said they have to drop it. She can't certify that the thing pays for itself. Obama reverses her, says, no, we're not going to do that. Then when it comes to Fast and Furious, does Obama know anything? No, I don't know anything. So the guy has his fingers in everything. At the EPA, at HHS, at the Agriculture Department, and everywhere else. But the biggest disaster, really outrage one can ever think of, this Fast and Furious, I don't know anything about it. It's as if he's sitting in Reverend Wright's church again. What? Fast and Furious? I never heard of it. Reverend Wright? Well, I don't know anything about him.
Listen, I'll be quick. I'm a Democrat, voted for Reagan twice, but voted for Obama. And, you know, my question to you is this. You know, when there's so much criticism...
By the way, that's pretty weird, to be honest with you. That's pretty weird, to be honest with you.
Well, I guess put me in the independent category. I don't vote along party lines.
No, you go in the confusion category. You voted twice for Reagan and you voted for Obama. Go ahead anyway. What's your question?
Yeah, I also stood in line for 9 hours to walk by his casket. So, but anyway, I admire the man. But here's my question. I have a lot of debate within myself and my wife about health care. And my question is this. When Bush was president and Republicans had the control of both houses, why did they not? They had a golden opportunity to write their own health care. They had their own opportunity, but they didn't do it.
Go.
Like immigration, they didn't do an immigration bill. And I'm just curious about your insight, Mark.
Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, all Republicans aren't conservatives. And I can give you an example. When it came to the so-called Bush tax cuts, one of the reasons he had to make them temporary is because people like John McCain said they wouldn't vote for him. John McCain even used the class warfare rhetoric. I remember like it was yesterday. Tax cuts on the shoulders of the poor. Or balance the budget on the shoulders of, on the backs of the poor. So the Republicans are not a unified group when they're in the majority. They tend to be more unified when they're in the minority, if you've noticed. As a matter of fact, one of the things the Republicans did and Bush did was they expanded Medicare. Exactly the wrong thing to do with a system that's going broke. So you ask me why they do what they do? I don't know. It's very damn annoying to me, to be perfectly honest. But that said, they didn't have 60-member supermajority in the Senate to overcome a filibuster. So it takes one Democrat or one liberal Republican, for that matter, to throw a wrench in the works.
But, Mark, but if you look back, now look, I'm 62, and I talked to my mom about this, who's had colon cancer surgery, and we were talking about this, and, looking back over my lifetime, the Republicans have never, ever been one to offer in anything really about health care.
The only thing they've put up proposals for health care accounts with significant tax credits in return to allowing the cross-state border sale of health care services through insurance companies and policies, which are prevented right now. And they've offered other suggestions. I would make it easier for individuals to purchase their own health care rather than relying on employers and so forth. So there have been a number of proposals like that haven't gotten very far. But I have a different take on this than you, which is the government is so involved in health care. If you look at the paperwork that a primary doctor has to do, or a surgeon, or the hospitals, what they have to put up with and everything else, it's not a question of the Republicans or whomever trying to figure out more ways for the federal government to get involved. What they need to do is figure out more ways for the federal government to pull back. I don't understand this. I'll tell you, Gary, I don't understand people who say, not you, but people who say, well, the government needs to do this or that. The government's doing things all the time. If we believe, those of us who are more conservative and market-oriented, that it works when we're buying toasters, then if you want to have more efficiencies, lower costs, attract more professionals into the medical field, have more personal responsibility, if you don't go more towards a market system, it'll never work. And on top of all that, you're not going to have newer drugs and life-saving drugs, and you're not going to have newer technologies and devices, and you're not going to have the kinds of efficiencies that we've had here really prior up to the last 20 years, or up to the last 20 years. And you can see in these other top-down, more authoritarian so-called democratic countries, these people are being wiped out. They can't see dentists. They can't get their knees replaced. They can't get their hips replaced. They're only a relative handful of MRI machines. Depending on what stage of cancer they have, they can't get treatment. They can't get certain drugs. That's what you get. You get more and more Soviet-style rationing and price controls. So, to make a long story short, what the Republicans need to do is start to unravel all of this. Not do what's good, quote unquote, as far as the government's concerned, but just start to unravel all of this. That would be pleasant. But to get a majority of them to do it, I'm not sure we can.
Yeah, the only advice I'd give the Republicans, and it would be that, about health care, they ought to really step back from this whole term of repealing. And I think, so many of us that are in the middle, and those that
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What do you mean step back from repealing? I want them to step up to repealing.
What I'm saying is that there's parts of it. Look, most people believe there are some good components within it.
Oh, yeah? Give me three.
Marcus, let me just sort of finish here.
Give me three. There aren't any.
My point is that so many people, especially baby boomer generation, et cetera, there's parts of that health care bill that are viable. And all I'm saying to Republicans is, why not get off of the tone of repeal?
Pal, I'm trying to tell you why. We're trying to save the damn country. I've asked you what parts are viable and useful. You can't tell me. So we're not going to get behind a myth, an image, a phony argument. Somehow this nation survived without Obamacare. Somehow, actually, the people survived without Medicare and Medicaid. We don't need more. We need less. Not only repeal, kill the damn thing. Thank you for your call. And it doesn't do you any good on this program to say, well, I'm a moderate. I don't give a damn if you're a moderate. Really, I don't. That doesn't persuade me anyway. I happen to know that most independents in this country, many of whom are conservatives and fed up with the Republican Party, are not going to be voting for Obama. And I'll tell you one other thing. People usually who call here and tell me they're conservatives who voted for Reagan and say they voted for Obama also say, I don't know what I was thinking. I made a terrible mistake. You didn't say that, sir. Instead, you're going back to the line, I'm a moderate, I'm an independent. We ought to stop using the word repeal. Of course we shouldn't stop using the word repeal. And by the way, the American people agree with us. They want it repealed. If the Republicans follow that gentleman's advice, they're finished. Absolutely finished. And I'm finished with them. I can tell you that. Now, this isn't some right-winger speaking. This is the other thing that drives me nuts. If you're an accountant and you see that somebody is spending in a profligate way and they're going to go broke and they're going to destroy their family, they're going to lose all their savings and their pension and everything, is the accountant a right-winger when the accountant says, you better stop this or you're going to destroy your family and yourself? So why are you a right-winger when you say you better stop this or you're going to destroy the country? I reject the language and the positioning of the left. I always have. And radio consultants, for that matter.